All right, so hopefully this works. So I'm sharing my screen. We could, I'll kind of go down my thread and my summary thread that I had created. Let me see once I find it.
You can just share
There we
it
go.
on here and I can double click it and it's bigger that way.
Oh, okay. All right, I'll do that.
Yeah. I mean,
Hello,
that way
everybody. That should work. Does that look decent?
yep, that looks great.
Perfect. All righty. So, hello, everybody. Thanks for making another session with the community call here. Ash,
Yo,
good morning. Good day to you.
morning.
So let's kick this off with the most recent post that you had. This one snuck up on me. I didn't notice until somebody else had posted it on X, and I wanted to get your take. What has got you to thinking about all of these things?
Yeah, this is I usually just turn my random thoughts into threads or like big posts, and I don't know. I swear like X shadow bans me sometimes, and like I'll tweet and I just see nobody even saw it. I'm like, what the hell? But yeah, eventually it picks up. So I was just thinking about it. Like I mentioned this in the last meeting. I was like all these MMOs and stuff, they have these player housing, and that's really what we're doing. But we're just trying to like take it to the next level because these games and MMOs, they have these player housing. You can put like, basic assets in your place, and, they're kind of restricted to the IP of each game. Uh, but like, I don't know, it's just, it's like that. And they're kind of like off features to the side, and they don't really like spend a lot of effort on it once they have the basics, which is just, placing assets in a prefab house. And that's about it, really. But I think we're kind of just democratizing that, and it's just like it's a good way to look at what we're trying to do, which is just do all of that, but also like spend more effort and go further and deeper down into that rabbit hole, so that we can unlock all of those use cases at the bottom. And in my own mind, like I think the thing that I would find like the most useful to everyone is that I basically want to I want to get to the point where somebody has an idea and they're like, oh, we want to do this thing. And, obviously they're not going to do it in real life. They just want to just do like some digital space or something like that. And every time they think of doing any of those things, all the stuff that's in that list there in the image, or like that's probably a completely non-exhaustive list. There's so many more things that are there. That every time they think of that, they just go, oh, we'll just do that on Hyperfy. Like, I want to make that the default thought, and it should be so simple and a no-brainer to make that decision. Like, you should just be able to go, you think about doing something that requires a real-time virtual space, and then inside that space you do X, Y, Z. And the one thing, you just literally go to Hyperfy, click the button, and you get that space that's ready to go. And I think that whole driving that from the use case first, where it's like, I want to do X, and then you just click a button, you get like the starting point for that. So you have like a pre-built space that kind of like does that. So if you had like, for example, what's a good example there would be like meditation. So you'd want to have like a big open space with enough space for like people to have their own areas, and then up the front you might have like a stage type space with the ability to play music and the ability to have like a loud mic that everybody can hear, whereas everyone else is just on spatial audio for voice chat. But each of these kind of like have their own unique things, right? So like if you wanted to do like a live event, you would want all sorts of like flashing lights and buttons you can push to change the lighting, and like little mini games for people that are out in the crowd to play with while doing that. And these things could be made by us, but they could also be made by other people. So being able to create like these starter spaces that are for certain use cases, and then making that available for everyone to get, and whether they're free or paid, I don't know. Like it could be a mix of both. Um, they're just like launching pads where you're like, I have a thing that I want to do. Oh, somebody's already made all of that for me, and I click a button and I've got it. But not just that. It's like this is just a starting point. It's for the people who don't want to get down and dirty with being creative, and wanting to like actually construct their whole thing exactly how they want. They can just do that to get started. But these are just worlds with objects put in them with the apps and stuff like that. So the concept is like, if you want to get creative, you can, and not only that, it's like super flexible. So you can start bringing in apps that are from a marketplace or from things that have been shared around with your friends, and or random apps that you find online just to make digital objects and stuff like that. You can just bring them all together and kind of like have fun. And I don't know. Yeah, to me, it just feels like the biggest goal is just when somebody has a use case for a digital space, that they think of Hyperfy, and it's the first place they go. Because right now, if I went, I want to pretty much all of these, right? If I look at every single thing on this list and I go, oh yeah, I want to do that, where would I go right now? Like there is no easy, simple place that I can go. I want to fill that huge gap. Like there's a massive gap there, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. And would you say this? How closely related is this concept to the kits, the toolkits that we were discussing last week? Is this something that would be apart from that, like a different marketplace site or something like that, or are these basically toolkits that come with an entire environment and a bunch of utility hypes?
Rather than toolkits, because that feels like an IKEA thing where I have to put it together myself. I think just having like the pre-built space so that all of those decisions are kind of made. It's just like a starter or like a launchpad type space.
Yeah.
But you could just, you can go and modify it. All it is just a world, right? So anyone should be able to build like these things that represent like a starting use case, and then publish that somehow. And we kind of already have this ability, like from a technical point of view, because we just have, every world has a world folder. And inside that world folder is all the scripts and the assets and all that kind of stuff. You don't need to know about any of that. You can just export it like as a zip manually. At the moment, you need a little bit of technical expertise. But I think with the platform, the idea is to just make that like a one-click thing where you just build a space. So you just go to Hyperfy, you go create a blank space from nothing, build up something that's useful for a specific use case, and then you click a button and go, publish this as a starter or a launchpad type thing, and you enter in the use case and people can find that and then they can just use it, and it's kind of like a template to start with.
Yeah, I think last week, while we were talking about the toolkits thing, that Omka had said like a hype seed or hyper seed, and this feels like that type of thing where the world template is created, and from that seed, an experience can basically pop up. And then grow and evolve as the person needs it to grow. So what do you think about a hyper seed? Do we call these hype seeds?
Yeah, I have no idea what to call them. It's weird because I think about templates and I'm like, template makes sense, but like it sounds so technical and gross. And hyper seeds, kind of makes sense.
Yeah, and that helps. Hopefully, it answers Rustan question. Rustan. He was asking where babies came from, so we said, yeah, a seed. It's a hyper seed, a hype plate. Boogie says, or Bogey says, hype plate. I like that hype plate. Still,
I'm not gonna lie. Every time usually when I write something that's really long, I read it like 10 times over because I'm terrible and for some reason I end up missing words in the middle of sentences and stuff. But every time I read that, I'm like, yeah, how does this not exist? Like people want to do things online and they try to do them in these games where you have to download like 10 gigabytes to get into the game, and so you've already severely reduced your ability to get your friends in who haven't played that game, like, you know what I mean, and they have to buy the game and do all that kind of stuff. And like, I don't know, man, it's just crazy that there isn't a place online that I can just start like I want to do like a mini event, like I want to do a meetup, I'm launching a new product, I want to do like a little quick like place that I can do that, or I want to do like Fractilians wants to do like a mini classroom, and they want to keep it fresh every time as well. So like, why can't there just be like a bunch of different types of classroom type things that I can just spin up whenever I need them and they're ready to go? People want to do little retreats and conferences and stuff. It's like, why is this not a thing? It's crazy to me.
Yeah, and also Emotional has an open bounty. I'm going to throw it up on the stage as well. So he's also one of those that has an idea, has a will, and a passion to create. And so I posted his bounty up there. So guys, take a look at here. Maybe this might be the first Hyperseed world where you build a game kit or and pull together apps, hypes, and then
Emotional has like the absolute biggest set of IP and assets and things ready to go for basically anything, and it's like it goes deep. It's really cool, and it'd be very awesome to see some more stuff happening.
To see the Fediverse in the Hyperverse.
Yeah.
Cool. And let's see if anybody's chatted here. There was a hyper joke here. Why did the chicken add a collider? And then Rustan replied, so it wouldn't fall through the road. So that was Uka that made that.
What? Yep.
Yeah, makes sense. That's the power of colliders. Very important stuff. And so with the projects that I've started seeing more hints, more peaks of projects that are using Hyperfy. The two that I'm noticed in the last few days was the Project 89 pushing some more teasing, and if anybody from Project 89 or would like to come up and speak about it, they're free to do that. There's also Farm 2. It looks like my post got blocked there, so Farm 2 folks have posted something there. And so have you Ash, have you seen any other projects that have been posting or creating things?
We got Farm 2, Project 89, Eliza doing stuff. There's a couple. I get a few in my DMs and stuff as well, but I don't know which ones I can mention, so I don't say anything about those until I see them publicly, but yeah.
Yeah, don't mention things that are still in stealth. Okay, we got a post. Go ahead, Oquan.
Hey, what's going on, guys?
Yo.
Oh, good to be up. Appreciate you guys having me up. Yeah, just released some more leaked footage from the from the Hyperfy space. We're building in here, and we'll be showcasing, or we'll be sharing the link to people here soon, just so a couple of you guys can check it out. But yeah, we love Hyperfy. Shout out my guys who've been building in the background, and yeah, I mean, we just we look at it as we call it a network state. It's the first node in our network state, and we've wanted to, I know Parzival has been in touch with Ash for a little bit now, and we just really we really enjoy Hyperfy as our home, and so we just thought it was perfect here to have this kind of space, and we got some really cool things going on, some missions in there, that we'll be revealing and stuff as time goes on. But yeah, you guys can check out the video. Kind of showcases a little bit of the capabilities in there. But yeah, thank you guys for having me up. It's really cool. We're trying to kind of bridge all of these technologies together, all these projects together, because that's kind of what our community is about, is collaborating and greening the loom and invoking the optimal timeline, like, for everybody. And so big shout out to Bogey, who's been helping a lot in the background, Doge, and just everybody who's been supporting and stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, glad to have you guys on and collaborating on this. I'm curious, have other projects that have seen these posts reached out and say, hey, that's cool, how can we collaborate? Are you getting more chatter or questions around that as you've revealed more?
Not necessarily on like the collaborative tip. A lot of our community is anxious to explore Hyperfy
Mhm.
We have gotten some feedback from our other partners and people who enjoy it. I know Shaw has seen the world, and he's very interested in it. We have some announcements coming, um, behind that. But as far as anybody else, other partners and stuff, we're um, kind of keeping things kind of low key, until we, you know, want to share it out and get people involved with the world and stuff. So, um, couple partners, couple people have reached out. Couple people have reached out. Yeah.
And Bogey's GIF there, the the cranking the wrench or whatnot for the race car.
Yeah.
He's been at it, yeah.
Working. Yeah, definitely. And we appreciate it too. I've enjoyed the process of watching these guys build, um, especially uh, especially seeing it come to life from the seed planning to getting the actual space hooked up, and which was all very very simple, very very easy to do. Shout out Howie as well. um, but these guys love what they do, and we just really really appreciate the connections we have with Hyperfy. And like I said, this is the first node in our expanding kind of collaborative world building. So yeah, we're just excited to pretty much just get the ball rolling and get some folks in here and show you guys the games, show you guys like, what project
Mhm.
they guys about and all that stuff. So
And then as a project leader, what would you say working with Hyperfy, a team of devs that are cranking away on Hyperfy? What would you say or suggest or tips that you could give to other project leaders that are interested in building on Hyperfy and would want to work with builders to create stuff? Is what type of ideas or suggestions would you give them as they kind of take a look at this as a platform to work with teams to build on?
um you know what I would say, I would say listen. That's like my biggest feedback that I could give is just listen to these guys, listen to the devs, listen to the people who are building this stuff. um where there was a lot of iteration between what my idea was and what what actually was possible and what came to be and stuff like that. And the only thing I can say is that I was like, it went well beyond my expectations for the build. So and I feel like it would have been a little bit of a kind of block if I had been like, yo, like I want it like this, like we want it this way, this, like we have to do this. But just listening to these guys and like taking their input and taking their wisdom on building these aesthetically sound like places really went a long way, especially for the team. Like I said, it came out a lot better. So whatever idea you got in your head, just be malleable, and don't don't expect a certain result, right? And not be willing to kind of have a little give and take with that. These guys know what they're doing, and that's kind of what I was saying earlier. Like the passion is there, and you can definitely tell. Um, these people they're building pretty much every day, and they know what they're doing. So again, shout out the team, shout out Unka, shout out Doe, shout out Bogey, Howie, um, pretty much everybody who's been collaborating. But yeah, release your release your ego, drop your ego, whatever idea you think you have, like, you know, just kind of be open. That would be my biggest like takeaway from it.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And we are open to, have more chats and collaborate and stuff. We want to host more events in Hyperfy and stuff, and we'll be tapping in more with the Hyperfy community to try to share some of that love, share that ecosystem and you know those users, those people who also enjoy Hyperfy. Because we want it to be a home. We want it to be a place
Yeah.
where people want to visit and also showcase like the full capabilities of Hyperfy. So yeah, my DMs are always open. The community's open, our Discord's open, things like that. So Appreciate you guys.
Yep. Thank you. So I hints at that. We're going to have some Fediverse vehicles flying around in the Project 89 world then.
We love to hear it. We love to hear it. We love to hear it. Somebody might we're gonna have a collab. We're gonna have a huge collab. Yeah. Neo Tokyo needs we need flying cars, we need taxis, we need, all these cool things, races and stuff like that. Yeah. So
Mhm.
definitely.
Yep, and that's one of the grand visions that the Hyperfy project has, with the assets being able to interoperate between between metaverse worlds, that people can move their assets around and get that moving around. Ash, on the front of the I know last week we had talked about getting close to that signature, being able to use assets via verified assets in worlds. And then I know shortly after that you went down a rabbit hole of crazily optimizing mobile and worlds with occlusion. So tell us about that story, or kind of walk us through kind of what you've been cranking away on for the last few days.
Yes, so the occlusion culling thing, I mean, just back on that signature stuff as well, is like, I have like a vision of how that's going to work, and I just kind of like let it simmer until I feel like it's the right time to do it. But I kind of already have an idea of how that'll be done. With the occlusion culling stuff, so I don't know, how did this start? I guess our platform as a whole really works well, extremely well on desktop, and it just kind of like chugs along, and it like you can put a hell of a lot of things in a space. But when it comes to mobile and VR, one of the biggest problems there is the amount of things that you put in a space. And so I did, like a couple weeks ago, I created that island space, and we had like hundreds and hundreds of like objects in there, and it worked no issues on mobile, which was like surprising to me, because I was expecting it to fall over, because a lot of the worlds just can't like handle that. And people aren't really crazy, they don't go really deep into optimization like me. Like, I'm the optimization king. Like, I won't let anything get into a world until I've spent like the maximum amount of time getting it to be the most low poly, the most optimized thing ever. But I don't expect everyone else to do that, because that's just crazy. It's like OCD. But hang on one sec. So I did those tests, and I was like, man, it seems fine to me. And then I started like playing around with other things, and I'm like, yeah, these things just add up more, I think. And I just started thinking, like, what are the things that we can do? And I'm like, well, AAA games and stuff, they use this thing called occlusion culling. Basically means that when you look through a wall, if you're looking at a wall, everything behind that wall, there's no point spending time rendering it, because nobody can see it. That's basically the idea of occlusion culling. And so I started trying to like bring this to the web, and a few people have tried to do this in the past. Shaw replied to my tweet, and he said, "Are you sure about that? Because I remember trying to work with Meta back in the day, and they said that they couldn't get good enough performance out of it." And I'm like, no, from my tests, it's possible. Like, I'm definitely seeing something that's like kind of crazy. But I guess there's a lot of prerequisites to making that work. And one of which is that you have to have everything in your world needs to be in like a spatial hierarchy, so that you can speed it all up and do it really fast and iterate over all those objects. I don't want to get too technical about it, but yeah, so there's kind of a trade-off. I'll share my screen, because I've got like this one. Where did my share screen go? I can't share. Oh yeah, there we go.
Yeah, you should be able to now.
So there's a slight trade-off in doing occlusion culling, which means I'm probably going to add it as an option for worlds. So I've got all of these things here. There's like, thousands of these individual objects. Each one of them is being rendered by itself. And when I'm looking at all of them with occlusion culling on, you can see up the top that the CPU usage is like fucking high. It's 16 milliseconds is the maximum you can have before it starts dropping under 60 FPS. The GPU is actually relatively fine. But then when you start coming down here and all of those balls are like hidden, then CPU usage drops to almost nothing. And GPU usage is also almost nothing. And that's because I'm not rendering anything. Like there's just my character and this freaking like low poly building in front of me. And it's kind of the same even when you're looking at all of these. It doesn't really change anything. In fact, it even drops down. And then when I go to look at these again, it pops back up. And so that's the problem with occlusion culling. It's like you can get these huge gains where like if I didn't have occlusion culling on, it would sit at about 10 milliseconds on the GPU. I don't know. There's something there. So basically, if you have a wide open space where lots of things are visible, occlusion culling probably isn't going to help you. But if you have an indoors space, I think a really good example of this would be Rustarn's world. If you have a world that is lots of things are hidden all the time, like for example, right now, fuck that, got a bit crazy there. Right now, I'm looking at 1, 2, 3, 4 buildings, 2 statues, and a handful of trees, right? Now that should render really good, but the reason it's not currently is because it's also rendering all this stuff that's inside. So there's all these like statues, these pictures, things upstairs there. Every single house has all these like things inside of it. And here there's like 100 objects all like alone is there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and it all adds up really quickly. So when I'm outside, there's just no point rendering any of that. And so occlusion culling will make all those things disappear, and it'll work way better on mobile. And the cool thing about that is that when you're inside, this has a window, but if I was like just doing this and I'm inside, I'm only rendering like four things now. So I only need to render this building, 2 pictures, and a statue thing here, and my own character. So yeah, the performance benefits will be huge in certain circumstances like this, but in other places it won't. So by default, I think we'll ship this as occlusion culling will be off by default. And you can just toggle it on and see if you get any massive improvements or yeah.
Because says Control Z, Control Z. Let's see. Undo upgrades.
Undo all downgrades.
For the massive optimizations. And so when you say trade-off, though, I think what you're just saying is that it may not actually help.
So the thing about occlusion culling is that as long as lots of things are behind walls, it will be way better than it currently is without occlusion culling. But as soon as you have lots of things visible, the CPU usage will skyrocket. So it will make it counterproductive. It'll be worse than what it currently is without occlusion culling. So that's the biggest trade-off. So as long as you design your worlds to be like in a way where lots of things are covering lots of other things, so that most of the time you're only looking at like up to 100 things at a time. Like I think 100 is a good number here, which is still a lot of things to have in view at once. As long as you have like only 100 things in front of you, then you're probably going to be really like you're going to get huge benefits from occlusion culling. So yeah, it's like you can still have outdoor spaces, and you might have like Vox did this world where outside you had like a little skate rink, and there was like a skating bowl thing, like a thing there, and then you went down a side alley and then through a door, and you went down like a couple levels of stairs, and down the bottom there was this huge like freaking disco area. Like a DJ spot with lights flashing, people everywhere, and like there's lots of objects and shit in there. And then you go through another side door and you get this whole other room that was full of objects. That's like perfect for occlusion culling. You'd get way better performance than you would currently, just because there's no point rendering all those things when you can't see them.
Yeah, and then you're saying that the design of the worlds then can influence the successful use of occlusion, where instead of, back in the day, I'm thinking of loading screens between every single room that you go through. instead of having that happen, you can use just doorways and entryways and other smart ways to occlude things to build an experience.
Yeah. You get like such a big benefit that as long as you do the right like due diligence to keep everything compartmentalized and blocked by walls and stuff, that you could have like almost infinite number of things. The first example that I was showing before, where I had all of the like the spheres and stuff, I bumped that up to like I think close to 1 million, and as long as I wasn't looking at it, it was like ultra performant. Like I could be looking at that in VR or on my mobile phone as long as I wasn't looking at all those balls. So you can have all these things in the world, but as long as you're not trying to show them all at once, you're good. No issues. It'll just keep going and going and going.
Yep. And then for everybody's knowledge, you're using like a 5-year-old iPhone as well, right? So
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good test device, and I don't know why, but like my phone seems to work fine for almost everything, so I have no reason to update it. Usually iPhones, after a couple of years, they push out an update that makes it slow. I don't know. I somehow skipped that update, and I'm good.
You've been dodging it ever since.
Yeah.
And that experience point brings us to something that Brandon Manis had posted about experience somewhere in this tutorial intro that he walked through the documentation. And so special shout out to Umka and team for setting up the Hyperfy How. Brandon Manis basically went through that and walked the people through this, so it's pretty neat. One thing that he says in this session, in this introductory walkthrough, is that experience is not that hard. Basically, kind of talking about how building experiences is made much more easily with this tool, with the Hyperfy engine. And so I wanted to give a quick call out to that a lot of what we're doing is building experiences, building the tools to make experiences. And so definitely appreciate kind of that sentiment across the community, is that we're building experiences and the tools to do that. And so regarding Ash, about that signature stuff, basically where assets can be signed in some way and then verified for use or loading, have you been able to make advancement or progress on that front?
On the signature stuff? No, I as I said before, I think I have an idea of how that's going to work, and I will just kind of like let that simmer until it feels right to do. I kind of got lost on, I'm not going to lie, I got lost on occlusion culling. But I think this week I'm going to spend a little less time on that, and I know we need a new release. We're a little bit backlogged on that.
Yep.
So I'll push that up. I need to continue on with the hypertech vehicles that we're building. And
we got a name, Hypertech? Is that what they're called, Hypertech?
It's tentative. The plan isn't just to do cars. We kind of want to make like a whole thing about it. It's like Stark Industries kind of style thing. Yeah.
Makes sense. Yeah, a digital manufacturer, basically, that you can crank out basically digital goods that are usable across worlds. So yeah, definitely interested in that concept. And in the meantime,
fictional tech company.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's not fictional. It is a virtual tech, virtual hardware. And then you have the verification, the verifiable stuff that you can sign it, stamp it, and it becomes usable across ownable. So really, it's ownable across the hyperverses. And so for folks that are itching to race Ash, you can also check out his race time. Let me see if I can get access to the link here. I'll drop it here to be able to race Ash.
I thought that was really good. Like, I don't know if somebody at Shop like Shopify did that for fun. I don't know, like Shopify isn't a game company, or it's kind of weird that they even built it at all. But it is really cool. It runs really well on mobile, and I thought that was pretty cool. From what I could see, they don't have like any physics engine. They basically just have like spleens where the cars go, and like they can only offset by a certain amount. So, but yeah, it's really cool. Like how they managed to have so many different scenes that it goes through, and it loads almost instantly. So yeah.
Is it like a 3JS
I think so,
based?
yeah.
If you're
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
like, I haven't looked, but I would guess that that's probably 3JS too.
because it didn't do any downloads. It is not asking you to download or give access to the root of your machine or anything like that. So it's pretty neat. And then it did the ghost race like pretty
Yeah.
flawlessly. It was pretty nice. Quick call out to Mudbone and Sco. I'm not sure if you guys are on, if you want to talk. Yeah, I don't see Sco or Mudbone, so they're probably still traveling, but they were at a Solana event last week. And so we might hear from them next week about what they've heard or saw while there. But the metaverse AI stuff is still pretty hot in terms of topics based on what I've been hearing. And then by any chance, did the Pudgy Penguins, Luca Nets, ever reply back about the IP rights for Pudgy Penguins?
Yeah, he did. He DM'd me and said it's all good.
Oh, nice.
So like, yeah, this was from way back. I think in February, I basically got Toxin to build a replica version of a Pudgy Penguin, a VRM, and he made a couple of different versions. Like one of them had a golden crown. And there was some others that I'm probably going to get him to make. But yeah, so that was back around the time when we were looking at all of those Fall Guys style games. And I had this thing in mind where basically, and if anyone wants to steal this idea, go for it, because right now I'm like swamped with other things. In Fall Guys, there is this game called Tiptoe, and it's basically just like, I can't be bothered bringing up a video, but like, yeah, there's just the game called Tiptoe, and you have to run around and, yeah, Fall Guys. Everyone jumps into the world all at once, and there's just this grid of blocks, right? And there's only one pathway through all of the blocks, and if you stand on the one that isn't that path, you just fall through it and you die and you get reset to the start. And so you have to kind of like use memory and try and like coax other people to take the steps for you so that you don't fall, and it's the first one across to the other end. And so I had this idea that it was like, with Pudgy Penguins, we could do the same sort of thing, but do icicles in like Antarctica, where each block is just an ice, like an ice flow, or a, you know what I mean, like an ice cube. And you basically play as a Pudgy Penguin, and if you get to the other end, the first person there gets like some kind of like fake centralized coins that they build up, and can eventually like use those coins to get like new avatars and stuff like that. Just like a simple game loop, fun game. Just jump in with a bunch of people and see who can like win. And then you get upgradable wearables to prove that you're like the best, and the leaderboards and stuff like that. It was a pretty simple idea. I just thought it would be a good example to prove that you can make almost anything like that in Hyperfy. The effort involved is, I don't think it's much, to be honest. It's low poly. Yeah, it's like that. And then one of those pathways is basically the only way you can get to the other side. And if you stand on the wrong one, you just fall off. And it stays, the platform stays fallen for like 3 seconds or something like that.
Oh, and then it regenerates. Okay, so you see other people falling, and you just have to remember that's the falling.
Yeah, you got to remember the path. When there's lots of people, it's easy because the path just kind of presents itself. But when there's only a few people, then you need to like remember more of the pathway. And I think sometimes it highlights or something like that, so that you can remember more of it. I don't know. It's a simple game loop, and it was something that I wanted to do just to prove the tech, because I think like if I had a good couple hours, I could probably build the game app for that without even really trying. But then you've got, you need to do a leaderboard to make it a little bit more fun. and have upgradable like avatars and stuff to buy with your fake coins from winning. And yeah, there's a bit there.
And then we have the Hex games as well. There is the Hexagon Fall game. So playing with Hex is already, there's a hype for that already.
Yep. Should be on Marketplace, on
yeah,
Hyperworld Marketplace.
it is there. Let me see. I'm pretty sure it's Fall. Maybe Fall. Yeah, it's definitely in the Marketplace somewhere. All right.
Some other
Let's
game
see.
works with avatars and more, said Omka. When?
Ooh, there are games. When? Let's see. Soon TM. All right, let's see what we got. So we got Lastrom. He had posted some stuff. So definitely, guys, check out Lastrom's asset. I've actually, for one of the worlds that I was doing a portal to the island, and so what I grabbed from there was a beach hat and a beach towel, and placed it in front of the portal so people knew it's like a beach place. So already got some use out of his user generated content site. So definitely check this place out. I am a fan of Poly Pizza as well. So poly.pizza. There's a bunch of low poly models there that are pretty decent. So I highly recommend that as well. And yeah, this is just a little clip of showing him populating a world with stuff. So definitely getting close to that collection feel. Eventually we'll have an integrated way that within the UI, UX, I'm pretty sure we're going to have the capability to pull stuff into the world. There was also a post. So Ash, do you feel like we're getting closer to the moment where people can magically create 3D objects and import them into the world? And this is also about that post from the museum crypto folks. Let me see if I can pull Museum of Crypto that they had posted.
Magically create, you mean with like AI or something?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Magic, like just by text, describing it, and then it comes out.
So there's a group of guys, Compute with a 3 at the end. I don't know if you've seen them, but they basically, I'm pretty sure they launched a token on Shaw's auto.fund. Yeah, that one. And yeah, they're doing some pretty cool stuff. I'm not going to lie, I'm in group chats with them, and I'm not going to lie, a lot of it goes over my head because I don't fully get it, but it's really cool. They're basically democratizing GPUs where you can just basically, when you're not using your GPU, it can just go into this huge like farm where everyone can just use it, and everything runs like isolated, so there's no security problem in doing that. But yeah, it's pretty cool. And a couple things that they're doing right now is spinning up like this 3D model generators like Trellis and Tripo, and they're also looking at how to do Hyperfy worlds. So there would be like ephemeral Hyperfy worlds, so that if you just wanted to like quickly spin up a free Hyperfy world, do something, and then hop out. There's potential there where maybe it's using hyper tokens as well to fund that, and so it's kind of like balanced that way. But yeah, this is all hypothetical. But yeah, what they're doing is really freaking cool. And there's a lot of these new 3D generators that are like they've gotten so much better. So Tripo is really freaking fast, and Trellis now also seems to be really fast. So you can prompt from text or an image and get a 3D model in almost a minute. So it's pretty quick. If I go all the way back to January, maybe February, when I tried Meshi AI, I was looking at like 8 minutes to get a fully textured model. And it was done in multiple passes, where we had this demo in Hyperfy where you could type text and it would generate a 3D model. and you would just sit there for literally 5 minutes before you saw any mesh. And then when it did pop in, didn't even have a texture on it. And then you had to click this other thing to get a texture. And I'm like, this is like obviously going to speed up, but right now it's kind of damn useless. But these days, like, wow, yeah, Tripo and Trellis, and there's some others as well. They're like super fast. You can get a 3D model into a world in like less than a minute in some cases. And they're not bad. I think whenever I can, I'll try to speak to the people that are building these, because a lot of them do it just for the 3D model aspect, but just a simple pass on the end result to make them like more low poly, lower textures, or at least give people those options goes a really long way, especially when you're doing like, Hyperfy style virtual worlds in real time. You want them to be low poly, you want them to load fast. They don't need to be like HHD, super HD. So yeah.
So yeah, working backwards. So would you say that the bottleneck is 3D GPU to generate these? I would have thought it was something like bandwidth or CPU or just how much it costs to just run servers. So having more GPU power gives us faster generation.
I think it, well, not necessarily. Well, I mean, yeah, it does, but to an extent, right? But the thing that is like Compute is doing is that they're basically using up GPU that isn't being used anywhere. Whereas if you were to use something like the Tripo or Trellis models directly on their websites, then you'll be paying a subscription to get credits and stuff like that. But then if you used something like Hugging Face, which is trying to do this from like, it's almost like the Spotify Netflix model where you pay Hugging Face a subscription fee, but then depending on what like GPU models and stuff that you use and generate things through, that determines how it gets paid. I'm pretty sure that's how it works. I could be wrong. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it just seems like a much better model and more efficient in every ways.
Yep.
I haven't used Replicate, yeah. But yeah, I'm sure
and then using the idle GPU seems very compelling. I think back some years ago, there was some. I think Monero does that, right? Monero uses up idle CPU time, and some scientific research projects do as well.
Yeah, there's a few times in history where people have been like, well, what should we do with that idle GPU? And I think, I don't know, yeah, I'm not sure 100% sure why that wouldn't stick for the long term. It makes sense to me.
Yep.
If I'm not using my computer and I can just leave it on, and I can potentially even make money by just leaving my GPU available for other people to use.
Yeah.
It's certainly cheaper than getting an AWS server or something like that, you know what I mean?
Cool. All right, let's see what else we got. Is there any other topics from the group? So I think that actually wraps up the thread that I got of highlights, things that I noticed over the last week. Does anybody else want to come up, talk about things? Replicate, I'll find Replicate and drop it here as well. But yeah, I remember Meshi was creating some mutant giraffes and taking that long. And so it's kind of funny how tech just eventually catches up to the imagination that we need.
Yeah, Meshi was pretty good. I'd like to see the same sort of thing, but faster. But again, like they made great models and great textures, but damn, they were like, they were big, megabyte wise, triangle wise, texture size. They were kind of crazy.
Yeah, and so do you think we need to kind of guerrilla marketing with them and say, hey, we need this, give us the low poly option?
We'll just swamp their DMs and replies on everything that they tweet every single day. We'll just constantly send out reminders to annoy them.
Yeah.
Nah, but Trellis and Tripo, those two models are like way more like, I guess, like on par with what we need, something more low poly, but still pretty good. 3 mins to spin that up. Is that meshy? Looks like meshy. Yeah, it's too long. Looks good though.
Yeah, it looks like a hyper alien. Hyperion. That's what it is. I keep forgetting what those
Oh,
guys are.
that's image to
Hyperions.
3D. Yeah, it looks pretty good though. Like the texturing and stuff's good. Wow.
Alrighty. I think I got. Let's see what else. Pudgy, GLB. Okay, so big burning question that we've had a couple times this past week is animation support for GLBs.
Yeah.
What do you got on that? Fractalians is like, yes, please. I'm sure.
Yeah,
Notional is also.
sometimes I push things out and I just assume that everyone instantly now knows that exists. So for a long time we didn't support any animations at all. You had to do it by script by moving objects. And then recently, well, still a little while ago, we released support for skin meshes, like armatures in Blender. There's different names for them, but yeah. So we now have that concept. So right now, when we did that, we also released like animation support on skin meshes, which means that we have animated bones. We don't have animated individual objects, which is weird because it should have been the other way around. We should have released animations for individual objects first, but it was actually easy to do the bone animations because they're embedded into the skeletons. So we have that. Right now you do need a bit of a script to do that. But I think we can add an option to the model app that we have so that you can just kind of list out the animations and that'll let you click the button and it'll just play the animation. I think I want to make sure that the right options are used for that because in some cases you want them to loop. Sometimes you don't want them to loop. You want the animation to finish at the end and just stop on the last frame. And in other cases, you might want to use an event to trigger that. And that's one of the things that we still haven't really kind of like jumped down where we had in V1. We had this concept of like events triggering other things and doing things and then moving on. I kind of want to add the same thing to V2, but I think we might do it in a simpler way, which is just using literally event names, which I can talk a little bit more about another time. But
yeah, I did like. So when you say event names, those are like the event trigger and an event system that we had in V1. Yeah. Yeah,
so you might have like it's a good example of that is you might have an app that has two states, an on state and an off state. And you might have a thing that's like, you might have a field there that's like, you just enter an event name that triggers the on state. And then in some other app, you have this like button mechanic or like a thing when you walk into it mechanic, and that can emit an event and you would just enter the same name there and they would link together using events. It's kind of just like, it's just like a simpler version of the signals and stuff that we were doing in V1, yeah.
Yeah, that I used to great effect of the ability the zones. So I used the zone entry as a condition and then mapped it to some sound. And so when people walk by some area, that it would play the sound. Super easy to set up and use, and that type of stuff is where the interactivity and the experience really pops for people.
Yeah, and there's not like any kind of, I don't know. Yeah, people just kind of, you don't need to be a dev to kind of string these things together. And there's only a few handful of like specific mechanics that you would need to build for people to build all sorts of crazy cool things, which is the same thing that we found in V1 with the only caveat that you couldn't like edit any of those things if you needed to.
What do you mean edit? Like edit the
like the apps in V1, yeah, they were like locked in place unless you wanted to work with the SDK and do anything crazy.
Yeah. Be a wild coder like Dr. Doge.
Well, we have AI now, so like these things just keep getting better.
Right. Yeah.
Soon we'll just be asking AI to do everything for us.
Yep, brain to text to hyper, and then eventually just brain to hyper. Brain hyper interface.
And we could have AI like picking which app to start from as well. So you could be like, oh, I want to build a thing that does this, and it's like, okay, well, I'll start with a model app, and then I'll modify it to do this extra thing. Yeah.
Yep. And Oquan there said hyperlink, basically a hyperlink between our brain and the hyper. There we go. Yeah, very nice. All righty. Well, any last questions from the group? Serious questions, guys. Any serious questions out there? If not, Ash, any parting words, any thoughts that you wanted to share? I know over the weekend we had some love being shared on the general chat, and then we turned general into developer chat for a couple days. Is there anything you'd like to give to the group?
No. I think I've said everything I'm working on and like where we're going. I'm gonna get our release as well. I think we're lacking a little behind on that.
Yep.
Somebody tried to install yesterday, and I saw that they had the loading screen. And I'm like, that's been gone for ages. So yeah, we definitely need to push that up. I'm still gonna be continuing on with like R&D on the seclusion stuff. There's still a little bit of work to do before that kind of makes it into core. We're working on vehicles and a couple other things like platforms and stuff like that is happening in the background as well. So yeah.
And then I almost forgot. Are there any conferences that you're aware of coming up? And this also is a question for the group here. If you guys are aware of any conferences, I know the NFT Lisbon is coming up maybe in a month or two soon. There's NFT NYC. And
if anyone wants to rep those, do it. Anything in America, I'm like, it's probably a no for me. Man, I don't know if any of you guys have heard any about the stories about people coming into America who just get like shoved in prison.
Prison and kicked out. Yeah.
Super weird. Rough. Like people who literally are there for like just to meet up with their partner or something like that who end up getting imprisoned. I don't know if the US hides that news from you, but that's what's happening. So nobody wants to go to America right now.
I know that.
Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I know that Rizzle they're doing a drop of Bocce, and they're doing a lot of the build outs. I mean, of demoing the NFT project in Hyperfy. I don't know if you've seen any of those cool videos that Paradox has done, and they've been talking a lot about it in the WIT meetup. And I think they're gonna do another alpha drop on Thursday. So, but I'm not sure how many people from the WIP are going, but I know Rizzle's going, and they'll be showing it all off with the Hyperfy world. So I think it's V1 though. So I'm not sure what they're doing, but still, it's Hyperfy.
Yeah, they love their V1. We'll bring them to the dark side eventually. But Bocce's cool. They're going to rep that, are they?
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm not like from my point of view, I'm not. I don't really think about much of the events and stuff that are happening. And I'm also kind of blindsided by the ones around here because I'm more just busy working and like smashing through things and enough stuff on my plate. But if anyone wants to do any kind of rep for Hyperfy, like maybe they're going or maybe they just want to hand out some stuff, hit me up. We can work something out.
Yeah. Message me as well because message me as well because we could throw some stuff into like a world and get people be able to share it. I know Mudbone had some challenges sharing the worlds or sharing a world that people could access on mobile and kind of quickly get a view of what Hyperfy is and offers. So definitely ping us and drop messages. Let us know when you guys are going, and we'll see if we could rally some support. All right, folks. We're at time here, so we'll wrap up and let everybody get back to hyping.
Yep.
Thanks.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Yep. Have a good one, guys.